Mic check 1 2 1 2. Yep. So we are live. Are we still waiting to be okay? Okay. Yeah. Wait till they get it. Somebody get in the building. Somebody get in the building. Yeah. Yeah. I'm here. I see my screen. No, the system is bugging right now. My computer is slow than a mug today. Okay, and I'm kind of waiting for somebody to get in the building. We trying to get it together. Just gonna have this going, clicking. All right. So we sharing it. Yo, y'all, my fault delay. Like I said, I don't know what the heck be going on, man. My computer be really doing this thing. But yo, peace everybody. Peace, Barigani, Islam, Salam, Hetipu, Rahubat, Lako Ninani, Chief Noble Bandele Alamein. We back again. And I'm doing this super late, super duper late live because hey, I'm up. I'm up and I was watching some videos, and just the topic today was on passports, right? And my brother was dropping some jewels on, he was letting you know about it. So we gonna get into who that was and all that, and what the alternatives are to passports because, um, like I said, it got me thinking about it and what came to mind of some of the things that can be used. So we're gonna get into that whole discussion in a minute. Before we get into that, please check out all the books that I have on Amazon.com. I do have an array of books dealing with the Moorish treaties and declarations, nationality, birthright. We also have the second edition, the second part to Moorish treaties. If you got the first one, this one is, um, it's a lot better. Moors, Moabite man is the history. Then we got like understanding of the real birth certificate, how it's really used. No conspiracies, but the truth. Uh, indigenous manual for life, and we even have the journal. Uh, I got my journal. You know what I'm saying? If y'all can see it, I got my journal. I love this thing, man. I actually, I'm gonna use this journal for keeping track of uh, for my child. Like as far as like, one thing you can do. People who are in a certain relationship where you're no longer with that parent of the child. You might want to keep a journal of everything what's going on, or a journal that for finances, economic needs, or whatnot, or whatever. But this, I do got my journal, man. It's a great thing. You can check out this journal right here, or you can get it on Amazon, right? So, with that being said, I wanted to get into the nook of the cranny, man. Let's get into this. I wanted to talk about what I saw, on video today. So, brother, what is it? I see brother Sabir Bey, man. Shout out to Sabir Bey. Uh, like I said, this is not an attack against anybody or anything at all, and I'm not just not here. But what he did was sparked off uh, a discussion, if you will, about the passports, and a lot of stuff that the brother was saying has a lot of light to it. Okay, so one of the things that they talked about was a lot of these Moors is out here selling those traveling documents, right? Now, we sell paperwork. People sell paperwork. I'm not here to discredit anybody's paperwork per se, but I mean, like, the traveling documents that they give more, the Moors give out. If you're trying to sell, if you're trying to go to another country on on that paperwork, I mean, you're going to have problems. Okay, that's plain and simple. I think the brother was saying that. The brother saying that a lot of it's bogus. In that regard. So I mean, like, and there's a lot of Moors or Moors like whatnot that are selling paperwork for traveling, but we both can say that's false. That's cap, right? So, like I said, this video is not going to be super long, but I did want to discuss this, and just to give your mind opening to this, because when I watched the video, okay, when I watched that video, um, it just opened my mind up to, like, I think we're barking at it the wrong way, if you will. It's trying to create documents to go, you know, to go overseas. Like, you're trying to make these Moorish documents and go overseas. I mean, a lot of those documents haven't been used or approved or tested, right? I mean, like, another thing too, like he was talking about, like, a lot of Moors using their Moorish IDs, either, like, let's say domestically. So, a lot of Moors use their IDs for domestic travel, and they might get away with that, right? Even though I think some of these Moors pulling out the Moorish ID after they got the ticket and may not have used that ID, right? Now, I'm just saying. But I will say that I have heard Moors have told me that they have used it, that seem to be credible Moors, to say they have used their identification, because it could be classified as tribal by some TSAs. So I'm not gonna discredit that, okay? And I know Moors that's out here who create certain safety. They're up to the code of national ID code, you know, because you got that new law about the National ID Act. So the IDs usually at a certain standard or whatnot. So, okay, so if you have Moorish ID that's up to the standard, then that might be also what's getting you in, right? So I'm not discrediting any of the Moors that's doing it if they are, right? But there is a lot of the bogus paperwork being used. So what I want to look at is the passport alternatives, because when I did a little research, you'll find that there are some alternatives. There's a lot of alternatives that are granted by government or accepted by the government, right? That they have as alternatives, legal alternatives to passports. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you something. I'm trying to get my screen share. I'm trying to go to the page. So let me bear with me, y'all. Uh, like I said, so y'all, if you get up on here, please like, subscribe to the channel, please, please. I'm just trying to tell you. Let's see. Okay, so all right, we are about to share this page, right? My computer, like I said, my computer kind of slow, but bear with me. We're gonna get it in. All right, so I hope y'all can see that. Talking about U.S. passport alternatives. Now, like we said, we talked about the Real ID Act. The Real ID Act, travelers must be in Real ID Act compliant. So, what I'm saying is there are Moorish IDs that I've seen that are compliant to the Real ID Act. They have the technology in the cards that are up to compliancy with the Real ID Act. Okay, and compliant to board domestic flights, okay, and access certain federal facilities, right? So, okay, and we're gonna get into this because this is something else that y'all we need to look at when we dealing with traveling, right? If we're dealing with traveling, we got to look at what they call the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, okay? So it says that there are plenty U.S. passport alternatives, and to cross the U.S. border, however, some only apply to land border. Okay, but with the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, it is a U.S. initiative to secure borders and clamp down on identity document fraud. So this is why you got to understand it, because a lot of the documents that are coming from wars, a lot of those documents are could be considered fraudulent. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Could be considered fraudulent if used, if not used properly. Okay, it says that the use of the RFID technology, and see, this is the biometric data, has enabled, uh, we're going to say WHTI, okay, to include identity documents to provide U.S. passport alternatives. Okay, so so it's saying that they have passport alternatives. The following documents can be used as alternatives to passports to prove identity and nationality. You understand that? At certain U.S. ports of entry. So it's saying at certain U.S. ports of entry. Okay, so y'all, if you like what I'm saying, like the video, subscribe to the video. I don't even know how many up in the room or not. We're going through this though, because it's some heavy stuff, right? This is what we didn't necessarily get out of that other video, but like I said, uh, the brother ignited that thought because, like, brother Sabir Bey, he been traveling around the world. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I'm saying. Like, he got credibility, a lot of credibility in what he's saying on that level because he has documentedly uh, been around the world, literally. You know what I mean? So uh, he did make mention that there are ways to, you know, there are ways to go around it. Now, it's always good to have a connection, but this is not necessarily. This is just understanding the alternatives right here, right? So one of them is the global entry card. Now, I've heard of the global entry card. This is why we was looking at this. It said the global entry card can sometimes be used in place of a passport. It's a valid to travel across U.S. borders, okay, with Canada by land, air, and sea. Travelers must be pre-approved by Customs and Border Protection and must provide fingerprints and iris scans. Conditionally approved global entry card applicants must attend a 30-minute interview. The card is valid for 5 years. Okay, all passengers, including infants, using the global entry kiosk must hold a valid card. So, in some instances, you may be able to use a global entry card. It's got the biometrics that's needed, okay, and um, like it's saying, it can provide like the fingerprints, iris scans. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, this is interesting. So, like, look up into the global entry card. I'm not gonna use a whole bunch of time to go into all of them like that, but these are the alternatives. You got the Nexus card. The Nexus card can be used in place of a passport for travel across the U.S. by land, air, or sea. Travelers must be pre-approved by customs. So, okay, so I wanted to talk about this because just shout out to King Bay. You know, me and him talk, and a lot of we've talked about customs, and I think he's talked about customs. Okay, so y'all go check out King L Bay's the other website he does, the YouTube videos that he does, right? So in the videos that he does, he talked about uh, he's talked about customs, okay, and border protection, but particularly customs because customs is where you transfer property. From what I understand, customs is where you transfer property from one jurisdiction to another. So as a person, we're property. We're 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 crossing into another border, right? Customs approves you. So a lot of this has to do with your relationship with customs, because even both of them, the global entry card, the Nexus card, and everything pretty much else is going to deal with customs. Okay, so really understand customs and have an understanding of the relationship with customs, your relationship with customs. Okay, look at the fast card. There's so many of them, right? And these seem like these are private. So it's like you got all these things, all these, I want to say private type cards that are substitute for passports. Okay, now this one's the fast card. It's available to pre-approved truck drivers. Okay, so truck drivers who meet the fast card program criteria. Truckers must be pre-approved by custom and border protection once again, and must provide fingerprints and attend a 30-minute interview. So all these you're doing a 30-minute interview basically for far, right? So you got the Sentry card could be used, right? The Sentry card, travelers must be pre-approved by customs again, 30 minutes. Okay, so these are all qualify for expedited travel across any U.S. border through use of dedicated fast lanes. Okay, so these are other things that also used, right? So the U.S. passport card. The U.S. passport card can be used for entry. Okay, so you got the U.S. passport card. It's not the same thing as the U.S. passport, right? So then you have enhanced driver's license, which might work for certain things. But I mean, if you don't have that, that's not really. These are just like the other things. But the Native American tribal documents. So this is where I think the Moors try to use the tribal angle and try to put up papers. But you got to be. It says, look, Native Americans can present certificates of Indian status. Will be able to continue presenting tribal documents provided they are fixed with a photo. A Native Indian status certificate will only be valid for land travel. So you got to understand even those stipulations for that, right? Child's birth certificate. Child age 15 and under who are citizens of the United States or Canada can use their birth certificate in place of a passport when crossing the U.S. Canadian border. Okay, so I don't know if y'all knew that. I did know that, right? A child's birth certificate must be an original copy or a original consular report of the birth abroad, a naturalization certificate, or a Canadian citizenship card. So, okay, you're talking about that, right? So basically, these right things are something to look at as alternatives. Now, I did want to before I get back, let me get back into the chat room. I don't know what's going on. So, so these are kind of the things that are alternatives to having to get a passport in all cases. Now, like I said, uh, there are definitely. I think there are going to be places that you may definitely need and require a passport for, but there are other alternatives. Um, let's see. I want to look at this one. Okay, we're going to go and look at. We're going to share the screen again. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at. There was the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative, right? I wanted to look at that because that is what a lot of this is being used. So if you don't understand the if you don't understand this, right? Like if y'all think that you can just write up papers, like write up some paperwork and try to have it get in, I put it like this: if you haven't gone through customs to do it, I think it's going to be important for you to go through customs when you're dealing with any issues. When you even do, like if you think your Moorish paperwork is going to stand up to it, have it already in customs. You know what I'm saying? That's where you're going to have to go. So what I'm saying is, if it doesn't meet the standard of customs, you might have a problem. But look, this is what I wanted to look at. So we got the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative. What is it, right? It's a joint Department of State, right? And look, Department of Homeland. It's planned to implement a key 9/11 Commission recommendation and the statutory mandates of the Intelligence Reform and Terrorist Prevention Acts of 2004. So this is something that happened under, of course, everything changed after 9/11, right? So we understand that that's where it all started. We don't really know what. A lot of times we don't really know what happened with 9/11, like the impact that 9/11 has really had on the way we travel and the documentations that are used and how it's propelled everything to like a national ID act and whatnot. So, but anyway, it says in part required um, Department of Homeland and Department of State to develop and implement a plan to require all travelers, U.S. citizens and national foreigners alike, to present a passport or other listen or other acceptable document that denotes identity and citizenship when entering the United States. What is the goal of requiring secure documents? Okay, so like I said, first of all, you see what it is. It's an initiative by 9/11 to, you know, have a more contingent, stand on identification. They got it's like a stricter form of identification. Okay, you understand what I'm saying. So it says, what is the goal of requiring secure documents? It says the goal is to strengthen border security while facilitating entry into the United States for U.S. citizens and legitimate international travelers, making this process more efficient and convenient. A lot of times when you get these particular type of alternative to passports, it does speed up your ability to get in and out because you don't have to necessarily go through customs or go through any problems. It'll speed you right through, right? So it's just saying U.S. citizens can present a valid U.S. passport. Okay, no, let's see. What type of documents are accepted for entry into the United States by air? Look, U.S. citizens can present a valid U.S. passport, which we understand, but it says a trusted traveler program card. Okay, so all of those different type of things that we talked about, the Nexus, Century, or FAST, are what they call trusted traveler program cards. So if you don't have a passport, we have to study what a trusted traveler program card is. Okay, so they say you can use that, those, which is those three, or you could use a U.S. military identification card when traveling on official orders, though, right? So it has criteria for a military. It says U.S. merchant mariner documents when traveling in conjunction with official maritime business. I ain't even gonna get into all that because they're using the word maritime and you already know what they're talking about. So it says, note that children are also required to present their own passports for traveling by air. Requirement for lawful permanent residents of the United States are not are not changed by the implementation of this. Okay? It says lawful permanent residents must continue to present a valid permanent resident card. A passport is not required. Okay, so that's a whole nother thing too, which probably doesn't necessarily deal with Moors per se, but I mean, what it's showing you is that there are other things that you might want to use. At least I put it like this: if you're going to have Moorish paperwork, right, right, which like I said, by itself, it it wouldn't stand it wouldn't stand on its own weight. A lot of times, you understand what I'm saying? If you have, like I said, if you have Moorish paperwork from agency and you're trying to use that by itself to go in and out the country, you probably are going to have a big problem. 90%, right? 99% of a chance of you having issues. Now, what I'm saying is that if you even are going to try to suggestly use that, you probably do need some type of trusted traveler program card. Okay, so even with those, like there are even other things that could be used with that too, right? So I know, like for example, and I'm not gonna really get into it, but I will share this information. You know, another number in that arena is a redress number. Getting a redress number allows you to go port to port. Now with the redress, I don't know if it allows you to uh, go go out the country, but the redress number and all those numbers are tied somewhat back to your trusted traveler program cards. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you're going to be trying to do something as an alternative, that I do not suggest that you go in there alone with Moore's paperwork. I really don't. Um, I definitely you're going to need something else that qualifies under their flying program because I mean at the end of the day the TSA and whatnot, the Department of Homeland Security, those departments are lawful departments of the United States, right? Some of the some of them are not called departments, right? You know, I guess from what I'm understanding, you know, a department is a lawful administration, right? But then you've got uh, like other governmental agencies that are not named department, and I don't know, but for what I'm understanding is that those may not always be. They might have some more private, outside governmental or quasi, what we call quasi governmental agencies. Some of these places are quasi governmental agencies. Well, like the Department of Homeland is, even though it's a newer, much more recent um, department, if you will. You know, I remember. I mean, it's been like 20 years old now, or whatever. It is still a department, and so it does show its validity and weight. So, using if the Homeland Security approves these documents, and you go through customs with your documents, you have a much better opportunity to get out the country without a passport than you would trying to use just Moorish documents and trying to cross borders. Okay, so like I said, this is just a little tidbit. If any of y'all come in the chat and have questions or want to, I won't say challenge, but just want to add to the fold, you can. Um, like I said, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of discussion going on, and like I said, man, I'm just up. I'm up tonight. I was working, and I was watching the video, and I just happened to chant in on it because he kind of rang my bell. We talked about, like, he wasn't necessarily giving up that info, and I don't even know if this is what he was discussing or what he got to say in a private arena. I wouldn't know what they had to say, but I do know that when you do your own little research, you'll see that there are alternatives to passports. Okay, and even if you're trying to get a passport, um, you can get a passport as a Moor or as any, for real, as any religious entity, right? Like if you're going, if you get a passport as a Hebrew Israelite, you know, you can have your Hebrew Israelite name or your Moorish name on your passport without necessarily having documentation from the court or anything. But it can be done. So I mean, like even if you was to get a passport, and so that's what I'm saying. Like there are ways to communicate and have alternatives to passports, right? And like I said, we got to do better than the right to travel paperwork, right? Because the right to travel paperwork is really not it's not really giving you the legal go to travel abroad, right? It's not. There's nothing in that case or the cases that deal with that really give you that right. They try to say that the right to travel is that you have the right to not be hindered in travel, okay, as a free citizen. But that does come with stipulations. So I mean, like if you are traveling from port to port, if they say they may want certain they want certain kind of documentation when you're traveling from port to port. And basically that's what you're doing when you are moving around. Like if you're going from, like when you look at it, it's a port, whether it's an airport or it's a seaport, right? You're either gonna fly in an airport or a seaport. If you're traveling in an automobile, then you are going from checkpoint to checkpoint, right? Like if once you, because it's like when you go to the border, that's considered a port, okay, in a sense, right? So basically, when you're traveling in a certain capacity, particularly from port to port, there are documentation that you can have that would allow you access, you know. And I ain't talking about like visas and all that, right? Which I mean, like that's a whole nother thing. And like I said, like I think Brother Sabir Bey, he knows a lot about that in that direction because, like I said, he traveled a lot, and I know that he's seen a lot and dealt with that kind of issue a lot, you know, a lot even more than me per se. I've been out the country a couple times, but you know, but still, at the end of the day, I think that uh, we just have to use, like, we got to use our head when we going out here dealing with different wars, you know, getting paperwork. You understand what I'm saying? Because I mean, like one of the issues is that a lot of times they're not available, um, or that their numbers change. Now, like I said, uh, we do sell. I mean, if we say packets or paperwork, but the, there are differences with people. Like everybody who's doing paperwork necessarily may not be trying to give you these type of paperwork, like the right to travel and all that. Like I said, there are some people doing it, but not all Moors is pushing the right to travel paperwork, right? And all I'm really saying is the ones that are pushing the right to travel paperwork, you know, you might really want to see what they know as far as even like what we discussed tonight. You know, dealing with these different documents, these alternative documents, because if you can get if you could get a hold of one of those documents, like a trusted traveling, get into the trusted traveling program cards, you know, or get a redress number or a traveler number, right? Because they got traveler numbers that you can get, you know, once you sign up, and really this fast tracks you, like if you got this fast tracks you because you're already in the system, so you can just walk up with those paperwork and leave in the country and come back the country. You understand what I'm saying? You can leave and come back. A lot of times this has to do with your relationship, like I said, with customs, right? Like, what is your contact and relationship with customs? Have you contacted customs? Have you, like, for you to get one of those cards is your a way of communicating with customs, right? So let's say you do have this paperwork. A lot of times, like I said, a lot of times the Moors don't know really what to do with the paperwork. You know what I'm saying? They get paperwork and they get this paperwork to travel, but really haven't been given the instruction, right? They just try to tell them how to try to talk to them, but really don't have the instruction. Just from my understanding, like I said, the custom, like I wish I had King Bay on here because, like, I don't want him to think I'm stepping over him, but you know, we have talked about customs, and like I said, custom from even what he was saying. If you watch like one of our other videos when we talk about customs, and listen, y'all, when I talk about customs, I'm not talking about like your customs of living. I'm talking about customs like going to customs at the airport. When you go to customs at the airport, they are acknowledging a transfer from one jurisdiction to another. Okay, they're acknowledging that jurisdiction and allowing it in the port. So customs allows you into the ports, and if you if you don't if you don't communicate with customs, right? If you don't have a communication with Homeland Security, right? Then when you come to the airport with your documents, like you just show up to the airport with your documents and then try to go through customs, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time. Why? Because you haven't presented you haven't presented your documents before you got there. See, like when they talk about sending your papers ahead of you, this is exactly what they're talking about. They're saying send your papers to customs, right? And then have customs give you access and give you a card, which is one of the trusted traveler program cards. Give you one of those cards so that you can travel where you're going. Okay? So you it's like regardless. Like it's like we try to a lot of times what the Moors do is they try to create their own enforcement but not really have anybody enforcing it with you. So you get this travel document from a Moor, and you just go into customs. You go to the airport. They looking for certain stuff. You give them this, they gonna send you straight to customs. Right? Customs is gonna have you over there all day, and they might even lock your butt up because they might consider it fraudulent papers. Okay, now, like I said, let's say, you know, weeks before you want to go travel. Let's say weeks. Let's say a couple months, a few months before you have made a decision to go somewhere. You have gotten in touch with customs in the or homeland in the form of getting a travel card. They're gonna fingerprint you. They're gonna do all the identification for you that way. So really, it's they're they know who you are. You've identified yourself to customs, right? Now, you have record of yourself at customs. So when you go and give that card and that number, it's already recognized. So what do? When you send in your paperwork? Now, like I said, I'm not gonna get into that, but maybe on another video if y'all really want to. It's not a lot of people on here tonight, but um, what I'm saying is that we show the process of filling out your forms for these trusted traveler program cards. Okay, so like once you get it, you're gonna put in detail what you are and what you're doing, right? So your nationality and all of these things like that would be on record with the application. Now some Moors may want to say, well, may not want to use the application for getting one of the trusted cards, but basically when you get these kind of cards, you want to put your information with the application. Okay, you're gonna fill it out a certain. You want to. I ain't gonna say fill it out a certain way, but understand everything is contract. So you got to be aware when you're dealing with the applications that these are contracts at the end of the day, right? And make sure that you have whatever paperwork you had. You just maybe want to attach that and have them see paperwork. Now they going to give you the warning then. So before you even go in there, they already may have rejected your paperwork. So that will save you time, energy, and being considered fraudulent because they may see the paperwork and reject it versus you kind of going into the airport with paperwork trying to get off on something and they may look at you as fraudulent. We know how customs is, you know, being able to mail the information in and then doing an interview. See, once you do that interview as well, you got an interview, you got a 30-minute interview by Zoom or something that you get to talk to them. And once you go through that process, they feel that you're safe. So if you're able to articulate yourself properly when you're dealing with the interviewer and you're filling out the paperwork and you fill everything out and you've given them with the application your, I guess, Moorish paperwork of travel, right? You'll see if they're going to reject it or not. And if they give you that card, then you on record. Now you can go with your paperwork. You'll be able to go travel without a passport per se, with with your trusted traveling program card. See, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think a lot of people have even heard of trusted traveling program cards. Right? I don't think they've heard of them. Right? I'm say all I'm saying is I'm dropping. We digging into this, man. Like I said, I wasn't gonna be on here super long. I probably, hopefully, not even this hour, but we are not looking at this from. We're just not looking at this from a whole perspective, if you will. Like we want to create our own stuff when we really there's no need to create it. You know what I'm saying? Like like the United States government, they have they have an understanding of the loopholes, if you will, or alternatives. Because I mean, like, let's keep it real. Pretty much, almost pretty much anything that they got going on, they got some kind of alternative that you can do with it, right? All a lot of, like we said, a lot of this stuff is voluntary that we do, and you know, getting certain documents, we automatically think that that's the only way that we have legally to do. And it's not. There are alternatives for people who don't have passports or who don't want them or who may not qualify for a passport may be able to get a card. And what's crazy about this is that when you get a trusted traveler program card, that these are, like I said, private, these are like private type industries, you know, that seem to have some type of relationship with customs and with Homeland Security. So think about this. You have private corporations or whatnot that are able to create alternatives to passports because of their relationship to the their relationship to customs and their relationship to certain government agencies. You see, so this is even for Moors to even think about that if when and as you have created these body politics, if you will, or these organizations that a lot of Moors have created, that they have to create, when they create these documents that they create or these cards, are they able to do them at the same level as these so-called private corporations are able to do it? Okay, that's what we have to look at. Like, if Moors are really trying to create a documents, traveling papers, that they would have them register somehow with customs. You would think, right? Because everybody else is doing that. All the other private corporations or entities are doing that. They're creating passport alternatives by having some type of relationship with Homeland Security or the and with customs and whoever else. Okay, so let us. I mean, like I said, let us think on this. You know what I mean? Let us think on this. So, like I said, man, this is the night. This is the night owl edition. This is the night owls edition. Like I said, we up late, man. I know a lot of people is like they trying to hear this. It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. What are we doing here, man? Like I said, I'm up. I wanted to I just wanted to see what was going on out here. Like I said, guys who missed it live, if you're watching it, please like the video, subscribe to the video. Uh, you know, check the notification on the videos so that you can check them out. And let's continue to get into the meat of this, man. So, like I said, one of the problems that the organizations are having when they're creating these legal paperwork is that they haven't gone through proper steps to communicate with the government agencies. Okay, like I said, we're talking about the trusted traveling program. the trusted traveling program as alternatives to passports. And like I said, we're looking at the fact that they have private corporations that have created these traveling programs. These private corporations are able to create passport alternatives that allow you to travel from port to port, whether it's outside of America or not. So as the Moors or whoever, whatever groups that are saying I got travel documents, and people who have bought traveling documents from Moors, would be wise to see, have they set up a system that talks to Homeland Security and that talks with Customs and has a program with Customs. Because basically these program cards are different customs. I mean different programs. You got different companies that have created their own programs of cards. These cards can be used to travel from port to port. And so we've looked at this. Like I said, for example, let me see. Where were we at? Okay. We was talking about the truck. Okay. Nexus, Century, or Fast. Those three. There's more than that. But those are the main three. These are trusted travel program cards. So when you get one, it's going to have all the information on there. It's going to have your fingerprints. They do everything there. So isn't it interesting that this private corporation has the ability to do all the work and then turn that into Homeland or the Customs and have it approved? And that's basically what they're doing. Okay? Basically what they're doing is they're setting up institutions, companies that have relationships to government agencies. Why are we not doing that? Why are the Moors not doing that? You understand? Like, Moors are selling us traveling papers, right? With, I mean, and some of them look fancy, man. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, some of the travel papers, like, you got some kind of passports. Like, let me ask you this. If there is a Moorish passport, or when you get a Moorish passport, is that Moorish passport approved by Customs? That's what we gotta look at. Is these Moorish documents, these IDs, are these IDs that we get, are they approved by Customs? Have they been ran through Customs? See, if we really was thinking about it, when we create an ID as a temple, if you got a temple, these temples should be in contact with Customs. Who should be in contact with Customs? The sheiks. Why aren't the sheiks or the heads of the temples in touch with these government agencies? A lot of times they don't even, I mean, they have no communication whatsoever. I don't even think some of them have even tried the paperwork. Personally, they just selling it because, they using the constitutional rights, and they're saying, certain landmark decisions in court have allowed us to be able to travel, and, we don't need to travel, we don't need a driver's license. I get all that. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is there are always alternatives to something. But in where you live, those people that have the authority need to have knowledge of that. It has to be some communication with those particular agencies or authorities. Like, even if you look at local, if you riding around with like, for example, y'all, now I'm going into it. When you have local IDs, like local identification, there are some cities that you can get a municipal ID. Okay? So what I'm saying is, They got places where you can get a city ID, just good in the city you live in. So, like for example, let's use New York City. New York City, there's IDs that are given to immigrants who may not have legal. Listen to what I'm saying. Who may not have so-called legal status, but these identifications can be given out by different municipalities that are allowed to do this. So who, like for example, in the city of Cincinnati, they have municipal IDs that you can get. The people who do these municipal IDs are churches. There's a church that has talked to the mayor, right? The mayor of Cincinnati, and got with them, and has they have agreed that they allow to make municipal IDs that are could be used to cash checks or whatnot in the city. Okay, so if you didn't have no form of ID, right, and this go for people now, if you don't have a form of an ID, you can go to and find out who is doing municipal IDs and get an ID. Sometimes it is like I think some cities the mayor does it, right, but a lot of times it is private corporations that create these IDs for the city. Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you look at it from a microcosm to a macrocosm, okay, when you look at it from a macrocosm to a microcosm, you'll find that the same formula can be used or applied to a situation. So if let's say Moors have identification that they want in the city, the first place they would need to deal with is the mayors, the city. They would have to contact the city and let them know that they have identification that will be used by the members and that they want those to be recognized by the city. Okay. That's how you ensure that your IDs are not mistaken for like fraudulent stuff. So with the same principle, when you are trying to travel outside of the United States without a passport, you must have either created a entity. Now, if you got a temple, it could be created out the temple, like I said, your sheik, your priest, whoever, your head of your church. If he creates the paperwork, then he could be in contact with customs. Okay, and that's what you have to deal with. Like we said, when you when you're trying to get out this country, you're switching jurisdictions. So customs is going to verify your leaving jurisdictions. Customs is what allows you to move from one jurisdiction to another, right? So it makes sense for you to have some kind of relationship with customs in the form of a traveling program card. Okay? So what I'm saying is, let's say for Moors, they have to create a traveling program card. Okay? And then present that card to Homeland and Customs. Okay? In order to be allowed without no problem. Because, to check this out, because once you get one of these cards, they call it the fast track program. One of them is called fast track. The reason why is because you automatically get in, they fast track you, and you get on board smooth. Where some people that don't have these things, they're going to be stuck in customs. They're going to be stuck in customs. They might be there for hours. With this these fast track cards, these traveling program cards, they will allow you to move to and fro. Okay, y'all. I want y'all to look up the redress number. Like I said, I'm not gonna get all into it, but I want y'all to look up and see where redress number, where it takes you, because the redress number is another form that people are starting to pick up on. Okay, the redress number has a lot of, from what I'm understanding now, the redress number can have a lot of impact and can be used as some kind of substitution to your other numbers, like social security numbers or whatnot, right? But like I said, I'm not gonna get all the way into that, but I do want you guys to look up that number. I'm gonna try to hold on. I'm trying to pull it up. Redress number. Let me show it. All right. I just want to show. That's what you need to look up, bro. Look up redress number. You'll get to looking at it, and you'll see that it can be used for traveling. It's a number that is used for traveling. So what? So all I'm saying to y'all, as Moors, when y'all got this paperwork, when y'all got this traveling paperwork, you gotta send it through Customs and Homeland Security. It has to have the approval, because man, it might be hard to get back in the state. I'll give you an example, man. Now, y'all all know Yassine Bey, right? And I'm not trying, y'all know Yassine Bey, aka old most deaf, right? Everybody heard the story of him being stuck in South Africa, right? He was stuck down there. People don't understand. He had a world passport. If y'all want to look up world passport, look up world passport. That's a passport. I don't really have nothing bad to say about the world passport, but in this story, basically the world passport was not accepted by South Africa. And so he wasn't able to leave South Africa for some reason because his passport wasn't valid. Now, I don't know what most deaf had done prior to that, but y'all look at World Passport and see if they have been approved by Customs. Now, from what I know, World Passport you are allowed to travel to some countries with the World Passport, but not all countries, right? And so what I'm saying is that we got to look at if that world passport can be used at Customs. Has Customs approved that world passport? Does the world passport have a relationship with Customs in certain places? The answer is no, they don't. And that's why there are certain places, because you got to understand that Customs is every country you go to. You're going to go through a form of customs, right? I mean, like when you go to France, or if you go to Ghana, if you go to Ghana, you're going to go through customs in some form or fashion. So you have to make sure that these documents are okay on both ends, not just the United States, but also even with your country you're going to. Okay, so traveling doesn't have to be hard, but you just have to be prepared and know the law, the legalities of traveling, not just from the social, not from just the Constitution standpoint, but from a world standpoint, international standpoint. And like we said, Customs is international. The TSA is local. I mean, not local, but it's the United States. But the TSA has a relationship with other places around the world. So even that relationship, this is why I think that you guys need to really look into the traveling programs if you're trying to travel with Moorish paperwork. It doesn't make sense to do it with any other way to me. Like I like it like who wants to sit in customs for hours and then may get thrown in jail for alleged bogus fraudulent paperwork? They might look at this stuff as fraudulent. If you had, and that's why I say it's just going through the steps, to get that card will fast track you through all the airports. They'll go. You'll be walking right by everybody else, which is crazy. Like all the people standing in the line, you'll go right by them. They'll fast track you in and out because you have identified yourself to them in another way, in like an extra step that you've taken that goes beyond a regular traveler. Okay, so and it's crazy. This is crazy because, like I said, these are private industry. These are private companies that have these fast track programs. That have these programs. So, like I said, Moors, we always behind. Like the Moors, we're behind in the way we're thinking about it. Like in the way that we're operating our paperwork. It's like we try to force our paperwork down the throats of people, right? Not really understanding it. Because you got to understand this. The way that you use that paperwork, even the way that you present the paperwork to these particular agencies, or when you present your paperwork to Homeland Security, one thing is for certain. They all take into consideration religion. So whatever your religious affiliation is, your paperwork should reflect a religious undertone, okay, from whatever you believe in. So like if you're a Moor and you're part of the Moor Science Temple of America or some derivative of, you believe in Allah or whatnot, you would use the circumcising Quran. You would use those religious principles that are in the temple on your documentation to verify, just to show your relationship to the religion. Because when you turn that paperwork in, you always have religion to fall back on. Okay, what I mean by that, what I'm saying is, if they try to reject your paperwork, you can say that they were being prejudiced against you due to your religion. And that's a First Amendment violation. So it's important for you to like look at and use religion, law, and going through the proper channels and avenues of the state and the city. City, state. It's just like when you try to do something on the state level, you're talking to the Secretary of State, aren't you? You want to put things on record for them to have at the Secretary of State level. When you want to travel around your city and you live in a certain city, you want to travel without having any problems in your own city. So don't you talk to your mayor, right? Moors go to the mayor to get Noble Drew Ali's week on record. Okay, if you've seen Moors, a lot of Moors have gotten the Moorish holiday for the whole week from like January 8th. From January 8th on, that's Moorish American week. They went to the mayor to put that on record. So why is it that we go to the mayor to address other issues when we are talking about identification? If we say, hey, we're this religious organization, we have this identification, we need it to be verified, we want to, have it come through to the mayor. Why do we don't do that? Is it that we think that we got to go against the mayor? It's like if you live in a city and you're going against the mayor, it's like you're going against the city that you live in, right? It really doesn't do us any good as Moors or anybody else to try to totally rebel against it when we could just have it acknowledged because we live in that city. They run that city. It don't matter. You got police. They got police. They got law enforcers, okay, So why not go through the avenues of channels that they have in place to actually establish it the right way? So that's really all I wanted to talk about, y'all. Peace and love. Appreciate y'all coming in. Please like the video, subscribe, and we gonna check you on the next live. So peace and love.